All right, guys, you're going to have to bear with me here. I just got back from vacation, and while I was on vacation, I picked up the flu. So I have been laid out for a couple of days. I'm not feeling 100%, but this is a video that I felt was important. I really wanted to get it out there. The video for today is going to be about the Grand Rapids police officer, Christopher Shore, who's charged with second-degree murder in the death of Patrick Loyola. I'll read the story for a minute, and then we're just going to talk about my thoughts because I have a lot. A Grand Rapids police officer was charged Thursday with one count of second-degree murder in the death of Patrick Loyola, who was shot in the back of the head during a struggle after an April traffic stop, Michigan prosecutors said. Loyola, a black man, was shot to death on April 4th by Christopher Shore, a white police officer trying to arrest him after a traffic stop in a case that had drawn national attention. The prosecutor says, "This is not a message. This is based on the facts, making decisions in this case." He also said, Officer Shore must be held accountable. You know what? That's not him. That is the family attorney, Ben Crump, the race-baiting piece of shit who likes to sue police officers every single time a black man is killed by police, regardless of the circumstance. So here's what Crump had to say. He said, Officer Shore, he added, must be held accountable for his decision to pursue an unarmed Patrick, ultimately shooting him in the back of the head and killing him, for nothing more than a traffic stop. I want to read that again. Officer Shore must be held accountable for his decision to pursue an unarmed Patrick, ultimately shooting him in the back of the head and killing him, for nothing more than a traffic stop. Let's talk about who should be held accountable here. And I want to ask, do we hold anyone accountable anymore other than the police? Because is Patrick not to be held accountable for drunk driving in a vehicle that didn't have license plates that matched the vehicle? Is he being held accountable for drunk driving with fictitious tags, running from a police officer, fighting a police officer, stripping that police officer of his taser? Do we hold people like Patrick accountable for those kinds of things anymore? Because Patrick's decisions are what led to him being killed by a police officer on that day. If Patrick had not been drunk, had not been driving a vehicle that wasn't registered properly, had not fled the traffic stop, had not fought the officer, had not stripped the officer of his taser, he would be alive today. Is this going to be the new standard that police officers are going to be held to? That if you pursue somebody who is unarmed and a fight ensues to the point that an officer is forced to use lethal force, is that now the officer's fault? At the time Patrick was shot, he was not unarmed. He chose to arm himself. That was his decision. The other thing is these dipshit prosecutors. What's wrong with you? You know for a fact that this case you're not going to win this case. All you're doing is you're ruining the life of a good police officer who was out there doing his job the best he could with the resources that he had available. If that was your car that somebody was driving stolen and they had swapped out the license plate, would you want a police officer to stop that car? If the person who stole your car and swapped out the tags fled from that traffic stop, would you want a police officer to chase after them? If the police officer chased after that person and they started to resist arrest, do you want the police officer just to stop, let go? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were going to resist. Is that the message that we're sending to police officers? That if somebody resists arrest and that you use force against that person, that you're at fault now? Stuff like this sends a very clear message. Like up here, he says, this is not a message. Okay, bullshit. You're sending a very clear message. You're sending a message not only to me, but you're sending a message to all these shitbags. That all they have to do is they have to refuse to give their identification when it's required of them. They have to run and they have to resist arrest. And if they do those things, they're going to get off scot-free. Because you're telling me that if I chase after them and I have a use of force against that person, that I'm going to be held liable for it. We need to stop the bullshit levying of charges against police officers just to make people happy. The fact that it was a black man shot by a white officer should have nothing to do with this case. But for some reason, it's in the very first paragraph after the introduction. That's what it's in every single case. He was drunk, driving a vehicle that did not register with a license plate that didn't match the car, refused to give his identification, ran from the officer, fought the officer when tackled, stripped the officer of his taser. You're sending a very clear message. And the message you're sending is to criminals. Tell them that these actions are all okay. So when your city is burning and your people are dying, just remember, you're the one that sent this message. This is the situation. This is the bed that you have made. Things have to turn around. This stuff cannot continue. If this stuff continues, our country, as we have known it, will not exist anymore. I feel really bad for Officer Christopher Shore. This is a young man. I think he's like 25 years old or younger. Only been a police officer for a couple years. Was a recent college graduate. He was a college track athlete. We shouldn't be doing stuff like this to people like him. He's a good man. He's doing his job. He's doing what we ask him to do. We need to punish the people who break the rules, not the people that try to bring him into justice. Those are my thoughts for today.